Welcome. Today is November 10th, 2019. If you've been watching my previous video or you've been following me on my YouTube channel for a while, you probably noticed this screen look quite different than what you have seen in my other videos. And it is different because I am experimenting with this charting platform on the web called tradingview.com. What I'm trying to do is try to find a platform where I could archive some of my technical analysis on stock and the stock market with the annotation, and won't be interfering with my live daily chart that I use on my other platform when I'm trading. So trying to use this to see, experimenting with this tradingview.com to see how it works out in terms of archiving some of my technical analysis, so I could easily go back and review based on what I see or what I think the price might do based on certain price action, and compare what it actually did. And then maybe hopefully to glean some information or learning from that, and kind of improve some of the price action reading, right? And there's always improvement, room for improvement in the stock market. We're constantly learning. And if you're a user of this tradingview.com and you have some experience with this platform, I'd like to hear what your experience has been. What are your dislike and like on this platform, and what are some of the tips that you have discovered or came up with, and share them with me and all these other viewers that is watching this video on the comment section below, and that will certainly help me go and discover some of those neat feature, or avoid some of those feature that might not be worth spending time on, and help me reduce my learning curve on this platform. This is the first time that I actually did some analysis using some of the tools that it has on this platform. So just gonna be going to a watch list that I created, and go to the technical analysis that I perform on these stocks. But be warned, some of these stock on this list does not have favorable fundamental, right? Because this analysis is purely based on technical. So it is a technical analysis, involve my reading of the price action. And even that, it might not, some of the stock don't even have a favorable setup to consider entering a trade or anything like that. But there are some price action to watch, that it could develop into a favorable setup in the near future, that it might worthwhile of looking for trade location. So that's so that is why some of those stocks are on this list, and some of them could be gone next week, if it doesn't seem to pan out. All right, so let's go to the list and show you what my technical analysis on these stock results are. Okay, the first one is Boeing. And you can see that Boeing, the price is bouncing off of this trend line here. And although the price is under these two moving averages, there's a 10-week and a 40-week moving average. And that represent on a daily basis is 50-day and 200-day moving average. This is a weekly chart. So you can see the price is below these two moving averages, and also these two moving averages is kind of turning down, so it's not that positive. But what I'm saying is that if the price could break above this pivot high here, which is about 391, then that could form a higher high, and that could potentially push Boeing back up and fill this gap, and possibly come up and test this prior high. But if the price break below this trend line and go below this 319.55, then what I'll be watching Boeing to do is come down and test this pivot low down here, 292.47, and see will it be able to hold support there. And the next one is FEYE. FEYE, you can see that it's kind of interesting. Although the setup might not be so good yet, but you can see it's a multi-year base here, right? And it just recently broke this trend line, and book this level of resistance here near the 1594. All right, so I'm watching for a possible maybe a pullback here to retest this breakout level of 1594 and see what it work itself up to this 1962 zone here. This zone been holding it as a resistance for a couple years now, and if break above this zone, that could be a major breakout for a stock that's been consolidating down here for a couple of years, and it's been down here since 2016. So that's why I'm looking at this and saying that kind of watch it to see would it be able to work up to the 20 area and for a multi-year base breakout. Here's Netflix. Netflix recently got sold off due to the earning guidance and also the possibility of increasing competition from Apple TV Plus and Disney and the other emerging competitor in this streaming space. So right now, basically looking at Netflix, that it seems to be coming back up above this trend line here. And I said if it could break through this 308.75, then it could reverse this this pullback and work up toward the 332.65 here. Right? But if it come back down and dip below this trend line, then we'll look for this possible retest of this level here at 231.23 area. Then Oracle is kind of interesting also because it kind of got this little triangle here, and it is bumping up against this upward trend line here. And what I say is, if it could move above this 57.33 after it break this trend line, come up and test this high and possibly make a new high. But if it dip below this 53.87, essentially coming back below this trend line, right, then we'll be looking for a potential retest of this pivot low here, somewhere around 49.89. Here's a Chinese company named SOGO. It's kind of interesting. It formed this cup and handle pattern, and it broke out of it recently and moved about that baseline up at the 553 area. So right now, I'm basically looking to see would it be able to move up to this 692 zone and possibly come down, then maybe pull back and set up an inverted head and shoulder pattern for the next pattern play. But right now, I'm basically looking to see and maybe get a little bit of a pullback, retest this breakout baseline near the 553, and then see would it get a bounce off of that. But if it break below, come back down below this 480, then we basically saying that kind of invalidate the cup and handle breakout. So it need to hold support around this 480 level. Here's Facebook. It seems to try to come back up. Got a bounce off of this trend line near the 173.09 area. Okay, and basically saying that if the price could break above this trend line here, then move about the 208.66, then we could see this this level up here could be in play, the high. This is a mistake here. That's 209.58. It is this right here, the 208.66, this pivot high here. So, but if it break below this 173.09, then what I'm saying is that it essentially broken down from this trend line, and I'll be watching for this low from this candle here, this hammer candle low, to get retested. And here's Alibaba. Alibaba, the Singles Day is coming up. I think that's next week, 11/11, right? Okay, and that's tomorrow, matter of fact. So it sort of trying to break out of this trend line here. And one thing is that if we could break out of this trend line, then I'll be looking for a possible move up to this 195.72, this pivot high. Okay, and then if it could get above that pivot high, then this prior high could be in play. But if it come back down and breaks below this 160, 168, and essentially break below the this trend line, that'd be watching a possible retest of the 151.85 here, this pivot low here. AC pivot low here at 1741 and forming a little bit of a base and seems like got a little bit of a double bottom forming here. And here's a downtrend, the trend line. So I'm basically watching to see what it be able to break above this 1741 resistance and essentially break above this double bottom and also this pivot low and the trend line. So you got a lot of these breakout confluence, and that might be a some sort of trade location to keep an eye on when it breaks through and look for maybe a little bit of a retest and a bounce. Although you could see the moving averages are still heading lower. So got to be careful on this one. We're basically just keeping an eye on it. Just kind of interesting formation and price action. And here's TNA. This is basically the 3x of the Russell 2000 ETF IWM or something in that sense. Sort of correlate with that. So this is a play on the Russell 2000. If you believe Russell 2000 is going to get higher, although it's still trailing those the other major indexes like the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, the Dow Jones. And if it come up and catch up to those major indexes and move toward a new high, then this could be quite favorable because you see this is basically a channel, and or you could look at it as a bull flag, and it broken out of that channel, this bull flag last week. So what I'm watching is see would it be able to get up to this 70.44. If it could break above this level, then essentially it could make its way up to the next level, 80.08. And then maybe we'll set up a little bit of a upward zigzag, higher high, higher low, and try to get up to this this high here. Now, for those that are trading natural gas, here's an ETF, the natural gas ETF UNG. And basically looking at this thing on this trend line here and also this base, this pivot here. Got a nice base, pull back after the initial breakout, and right now it's breaking out again and bumping up against this this trend line here. So I'm essentially looking at to see would it be able to move above this 2340 and then potentially come up to test this 2547, or would it be getting pushed back and dip back above below this 2040, and if it unable to hold that 2040, then essentially I'm looking for this thing to come back down, retest these low. But if get a bounce off of this 2040, then there could be a possibility of coming back up again to try to break this trend line once again, to make another attempt on it. So that's why I'm watching this thing here. It might be a interesting price action for maybe a near-term type of a trade if it play out on breaking out some of the upper level. And GE again, it's one of those stock that fundamentally might not be very favorable right now. But if you look at the chart here in the last 2 weeks, it's got a very solid performance on the price action. Right? You see this big candle, 2 consecutive weeks. It broke this level at 954 the prior week, and the last week it broke above the 1079. And you can see that there's quite a number of touches here, to form this resistance and block this resistance. So right now, basically what I'm watching is to see would it be able to hold above this 1094. If it could hold above this 1094, that'd be watching the possibility of come up to this 1325 and test that level. But if it come back down and it could not hold the 954, then this trend line could be back in play. But if it come back down to a 954 and get a bounce, that might be a good place to look for a possibility here for this reversal back up and try to make another attempt at this breakout of 1079 and move to 1325. So keeping an eye on this one for any sort of a pullback to see is there any kind of possible long setup to play it up for at least in the near term to this 1325 area. Here's Guess. It's one of the retailer. Although right now a lot of these retailers like Macy, it's might not be very favorable. But it's interesting to note that it's coming up to this trend line here. So and also the moving average here is the 10-week moving averages is coming up, and maybe in the near future the 40 week will also flatten out. But again, you're basically looking for this breakout of this trend line and see could it get back above this pivot high to give it a higher high, higher low, and see would it be able to reverse this downtrend, because it broke above this pivot here right now, right after spending some time hovering near this pivot here. So we'll keep an eye on that to see would it be able to close above this trend line. And here's a ETN ETF. DBC is kind of related to commodities, right? And the reason I'm looking at this is kind of interesting. Maybe there's something happening with the commodity sector, because looking at this trend line here, coming up to this resistance, if it could break above this trend line, then it could invalidate this, what I call a potentially head and shoulder pattern. But this line here, this trend line here, could be this, not necessarily a ideal perfect head and shoulder pattern. Right? A lot of time these pattern doesn't form perfectly, but if you take a look at it on an overview and some of the imperfection, you can see that there is a potential head and shoulder pattern here. So if it come down and break this trend line, then it could be breaking down from a head and shoulder pattern, and these low might be back in play here, right, on the downside. But if it breaks out of this trend line here, then there are some possibility of getting up to this double top here. We test this double top and take out this double top. So we'll keep an eye on this. Something is happening. We'll see how it will play out in the near future. Here's WYNN Resort, a gambling casino. Have a lot of things going on at Macau. So any favorable things coming out of China, especially between China and U.S. on this trade war, then I think it will be maybe beneficial to WYNN. And right now, essentially, it is bumping up against this trend line here and try to break out. And if we could, stay above this trend line, then we could see this thing might make a move up to this 141.29, this trend line up here. But if it come back down and break below this 120.23, then we could see it might work itself back down to this trend line down here and test these pivot low here near this 102 area. So ADI, Analog Devices, a semiconductor company, and it is scheduled to report earnings after Thanksgiving. So there's a couple weeks before the earning play come in to play on this price action. But looking at this, it's been on a nice uptrend, and it is above this trend line, and the moving average seems to be still moving up. And recently it just broke this little bit of a trend line here. And right now I'm basically watching to see would it be able to get above this 118.46. If it could get above this 118.46, then this high could be in play. But if it revert back and dip below this 103.72, then I'll be watching this 95.51 area, and essentially could be coming back to this lower trend line. Then Texas Instruments is another semiconductor company, one of the big one. Right? It reported earnings a couple of weeks ago, but it gave disappointing forward guidance, and that's why the stock kind of got clobbered. But it came down and found some support here, it seemed like, and it's bouncing back to this 118.98. And what I'm seeing is that if it could stay above this 118.98 and move above this 124.53, then the high could be in play. Right? But if it come back down and break below this trend line, then we could see this low down here, 101.57, could be in play, and essentially this trend line could be back in play for a test of potential support. Here's MXIM. MXIM is another semiconductor company. Okay, and you see that it is trying to come up here to this, what do you call this, baseline here. Again, you can see if you look at this, it could be a potential inverted head and shoulder pattern, right? So here's the left shoulder, and here is the head, and here could be forming a right shoulder. So if it break above this zone here, the 63.38, it could make some sort of a inverted head and shoulder break, and I don't know, it might come up and test this spike high here, who knows, right? But at least we might see this high at 65.86, okay? But if it is unable to get above this 63.38 and come back down and break below the 55, then essentially this trend line is back in play, and we could see it move down to test these prior low. This pivot low down at 51.60 area and this 46.5 area. And this HIMX, basically looking at this price pattern here, it seems to come down and form a pivot low here, and sort of like a little bit of a double bottom. But it did print out a shooting star type of bearish candle last week. So we need to see would it be able to take this out and come up to this $3.03, get above it. And if we get above it, then these pivot high could be in play, and it might come up and come down and back test it, and then form a higher high, higher low type of price pattern. Then it could reverse this downtrend and maybe try to consolidate and set up for the next move on the upside. So that's something to watch here. But again, beware of this bearish shooting star weekly candle. We need to see how this thing play out. And AMBA is another semiconductor company. Here you can see that I also put in a potential inverted head and shoulder type of a pattern being formed. Right now it's kind of bouncing off of this 51.90. And if it can make itself up to this 65.09, then essentially it has formed this right shoulder, this inverted head and shoulder pattern. And then we could look for potential breakout and maybe at least make it back up to this pivot high somewhere around $75 area. So, but if it break below this 51.90, then essentially we are looking for these pivot low down here to be back tested. But the key thing is to watch is see how this price action bounce off of this 51.90 area and see would it be able to make itself up to the 65.09. This is Miracle Grow. It's kind of interesting pattern here. You see this forming a little bit of a bull flag, and I'm watching to see would it be able to break out above this 105.20. If it could break out this 105.20, then essentially it's breaking out this bull flag, and it could move, and it could come up and take out this high. So that's one thing that I'm watching on this stock right now, is basically to see would it be able to break out this price channel, essentially sort of like a bull flag, and see would it be able to come up and test this prior high at 114.60 area. And here's American Express. The financial been doing quite well in the recent week. A lot of the banking stock, and that's basically been sort of helped push the market to a new high recently. But I'm looking at the American Express, basically watching this pivot here, this 119.98, essentially somewhere around this 120 area. It broke out of this little bit pullback. So I'm watching to see would it be able to hold this, hold above this 120 area and come up and take out the prior high. So so it is in a pullback mode. There's also a possibility that it could continue to pull back and come down, dip below the 112 and retest this trend line. But based on recent price action and the strength in the financial sector, I'm more inclined to keep an eye on the possibility of moving up and maybe come up and try to retest this high. Disney just reported earning, and it reported good earning, so it helped push up the stock price, and also is getting ready to launch their Disney Plus streaming channel, and so right now it seems to be coming up to this pivot here, and try to break out of this pivot high, which is 140.08. So if it could come up and stay above the 140.08, then this prior high could be in play. All right, so that's why I'm kind of keeping an eye on this. So here in my annotation, it's basically waiting for a pullback for a higher high or higher low to confirm the resumption of this uptrend to new high. So if it come up and then pull back a little bit, do a back test, that would be ideal. And then, get this, higher low, take out this low here. So essentially forming a higher low. Then it move up and get up to this high here. Okay, so because you can see that's also a little bit of a trend line break here. See, so you can see this, although a little bit steep, but it is a break of this trend and this pivot here. That's why I got this 133.68. So if it come back and dip below and unable to stay above this 133.68, then there's a good possibility this breakout is a false breakout. Okay, that's it for this segment of my venture into this tradingview.com. So let me know what you think. If you like this platform and like the way that I have put up these annotation on the chart, let me know in the comment section below. Or if you'd like to see something different or certain improvement you'd like me to tweak, then let me know about that on the section below, on the comment section below as well. So thank you for watching, and good luck on your trading.